professional communications people know that's not the right way to deal with Wikipedia. If there's an error in Wikipedia, you should come and treat people with respect and talk to them and basically open a dialogue, send an email with a complaint, and the community is very responsive to that. Now, in terms of governments, obviously, they do, in many places around the world, have the ability to censor. And we do face censoring in a lot of places around the world. So probably the most important place where censorship is a major problem is China. Well, we were completely banned in China for 3 years. We're now available in China, but even today they filter certain pages that they don't like. In China, there are certain very sensitive topics. Things like Tiananmen Square is sensitive. Falun Gong, which is well, they say it's a crazy cult, and I have to agree, it's kind of a crazy cult, but they don't even like people to have neutral facts about it. They just really are trying to suppress it very strongly. They have issues about Taiwan and is Taiwan independent or not. Also a very difficult topic to even talk about in China. Even presenting a very neutral statement is something that they're not comfortable with. So they're filtering certain pages, but things have improved a lot in China. Most of Wikipedia is available in China, and so on. All around the world, there are many, many countries now who have implemented technological filtering of the internet at the backbone level in a way very similar to what China does. And this is a problem. We do see in many places around the world certain opposition political figures. The content is filtered out of Wikipedia. I'll just give one last example, which is a country that has fairly mild censorship, but I think it shows some of the problems with it. So Thailand, in Thailand is a monarchy, and it's illegal in Thailand to criticize the king. Well, people in Thailand, they actually love the king, and he is actually a good king, I think. He led them out of military dictatorship. He's been a stabilizing influence, and they have, a problematic democracy, but they're doing okay, and he's a pretty good king. But still, you're not allowed to criticize him, which I think is wrong. But the real problem with that is not that very narrow thing of you cannot criticize the king. I mean, that's a problem. It's a fairly narrow problem because the king isn't directly involved in politics. The problem is that the people who are responsible for running the system are often accused of going beyond that mission. They sometimes censor things that aren't criticizing the king, but that are in fact criticizing the current government, which you should be able to criticize under Thai law. So one of the problems is once you allow for that first step of the government controlling information, it's very difficult to stop them from expanding that control of information. So we do face this problem. I try to speak about it to say that I think it's a mistake, but I also think these problems are, the trend is in the right direction. The trend is, even in China, they're beginning to open up more and more. They're realizing that the censorship doesn't really achieve the goals that they want it to achieve, and that it's not the right way. And of course, people don't like it, and so it's something that more and more people on the internet are realizing that it's a very bad idea. Okay.
Io volevo chiedere come mai avete sentito la necessità di inserire la figura di un editore o di un revisore che prima visualizza i nuovi commenti, le nuove modifiche che vengono fatte alle pagine di Wikipedia, e se non pensate che questa limitazione alla libertà che c'era prima di editare Wikipedia allontanerà la gente, o comunque parte della gente che prima ci scriveva, visto che comunque anche lei ha detto che le persone in Wikipedia hanno gli strumenti veloci per isolare o modificare le pagine fatte in modo scorretto.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, so I agree with you completely, and I sympathize with the problem that people are having today because the news media has been so confused about this that there's a lot of wrong information. It's been very commonly said in lots of places that we're introducing some kind of professional board of editors who are controlling the content. This is completely false. And some of the news reports are more accurate and some are less accurate. There's so much confusion. It's really quite, I don't know what to do. So basically what we want to do then is I should explain what we are doing in Wikipedia and how I see the future of this. So within Wikipedia, we have always had the ability to lock pages. So normally what happens is if there's some kind of trouble on a page, so someone continues to post some vandalistic remarks, or there's a big fight and people are just going back and forth, we can protect the page and we can say, no editing for a while. And that's not someone in the office doing it. That's the community. That's the people who are elected administrators from the community have the ability to do this. And they have a lot of checks and balances. There are a lot of rules about when can you lock something. Everyone can see who locked it, and then they can complain about it, and they can argue amongst themselves. There's a whole process behind that, which I think is quite democratic and works quite well, so that we only protect things for very specific reasons. Well, the problem with locking an article, in the old days when we locked it, no one could edit it, except administrators, and even they didn't edit while protected because it's not fair if they are able to edit and other people aren't. We didn't like that because one of the things that happens is an article may be protected at a time when lots of good people want to come and make it better and they want to improve it, and it's just a problem. So we changed to a system that's much more widely used called semi-protection, where when something is semi-protected, you can edit it only if you've had an account for 4 days. So in order to edit something very famous like George W. Bush or Barack Obama in the English Wikipedia, if you're not logged in, you can't edit it. If you want to edit it, you have to log in and then wait for 4 days, then you would be able to edit it. So this is a minor slowing of people's participation, but only in a very narrow group of articles, and it's articles like those. So every now and then we used to see some brave administrator would say, oh, I'm going to unlock George W. Bush because I think it shouldn't be locked, and I'll watch it personally. I'll make sure there's no vandalism. And then usually, 4 hours later, completely exhausted, they would say, oh, I give up. I see. It has to be protected because if you unprotect George W. Bush, it takes maybe 30 seconds before somebody replaces the entire entry with curse words because, I don't know, somehow he's not very popular. But even, for Barack Obama, who I think is more popular around the world, still, he's the president of the United States, so someone will do something. Well, even this we don't like because now, someone who wants to contribute and they're not trying to cause trouble, they come to the Barack Obama article and they say, oh, I want to add some information that I researched, and they can't, and they just get frustrated and leave. And so what we're introducing is something called flagged revisions, and the idea here is instead of locking those entries, you can edit them. And some of these things, they're going to be editable by the general public for the first time in years. But the difference will be that you can edit those entries, but that if you're a newcomer, your edit won't go live until somebody who's more experienced. And it's not just administrators, it's anyone who's been around for a while has approved that edit. So what's in fact going on is that we're going to be opening up Wikipedia more than ever before to allow more participation, even on very controversial articles where we weren't able to allow open participation in the past. So that's a very different story from the story that's typically told. And the reason is, people who don't understand Wikipedia very well, they naturally, and particularly the news media has always had this problem of, anytime there's a change in Wikipedia, they want to interpret it as, oh, finally they realize that our way of doing it is the only possible way, and they're going to hire professional editors. It's very difficult for them to say, oh, actually, openness is not the enemy of quality, that there are very, of course, important questions. Wikipedia is not an anarchy. It is a social structure. There are tools, there are controls. For us, it's always thinking about what are the tools that the community needs in order to control for quality. We know that there are a very tiny number of people out in the world who are just troublemakers, and some of them are just having a joke. Some of them are actually crazy. Some of them are very maybe politically motivated. There's a lot of different kinds of troublemakers, and we have to deal with them. But we want to deal with them in such a way that is as narrow as possible so that good people don't get shut out of the process along the way. So we're going to be introducing it. Now I should say as a footnote, in the German language Wikipedia, they were